All right, this is an exercise to bring your awareness down into your pelvis, especially the muscles of your pelvic floor and immediately surrounding your pelvis, just to help it out with some movement. And so you'll get started just as Jules is here, lying down on your back, maybe some support under the back of your head if you need it. And then soles of the feet on the earth, so the knees point up to the sky. And knees do not need to be, or feet rather, don't need to be super close into your hips. You can have plenty of space. You want to feel like you're as uncramped as possible along the spine. And you can soften the gaze or close the eyes down. Though there's a model in this video, you're not really going to be able to see their pelvic movement too much. It's all very subtle work. And so here with soft gaze, feel the pressure of your body start to settle into the mat or whatever you're lying on. And as long as your sinuses will allow, bring your breath in and out of your nose. And without force or demand, think of the muscles connected to your eyes as softening, letting go. The muscles of your cheek, the sides of your neck. And trust that as much relaxation as your body wants to find right now is perfect. Over time, throughout this practice, and even throughout, all your practices, day by day, that will adjust. Sometimes we're just a little bit more tense than others. And then slowly allow your breath to become a long, slow, deep breathing pattern. And this is as if you're trying to fill up the entirety of your lungs on the inhale while still remaining comfortable, and expelling all the air out on the exhale. So you don't want to try and take such a big breath in that your eyes pop open or you feel like the muscles of your chest activate. It might take 5 to 10 breaths to really tap into that full, comfortable expansion. So with each inhale, the lungs start to open up, not just from bottom to top, but also from front to back, from left to right as well. And the exhales are slow enough that you can really feel like all the air is leaving your body before your next breath in. And staying with that long, slow, deep breath, begin to tilt your pelvis forward and backwards. And so as you breathe out, it'll be a posterior pelvic tilt, and it'll feel like you're pressing your low back into the mat, almost like you're coming into that tucked tailbone sensation, but you don't need to go quite so far. And then inhale, anterior pelvic tilt, and this is the opposite. Pubic bone forward and down. Your glutes will stay on the floor, but your low back starts to arch up. And then just keep going at your own pace. And it's okay if it feels like too much to match the breath with the movement. Just stay with a long, slow, deep breath as you tilt the pelvis. Forward and backwards. over time, try to use as little muscular engagement as possible to tilt. And this will start to wake up all the tiny muscles that exist in your low belly and your inner thighs. And then take your time to rest the pelvis, to settle it, to make it still, in the place that feels like it's in between these two actions. So what we call the neutral pelvis. And if it feels like you're in between posterior and anterior pelvic tilt, if it feels like neutral pelvis, it is. And then as you maintain that sensation of neutral pelvis in the middle of the forward and backward tilt, start to press a little bit more into the back of your right hip. So it's like you're pressing the back right side of the pelvis a little bit more into the earth. And then a very gentle rock to the left. So you're pressing the back of the left hip, back left side of the pelvis a little bit more into the mat. And then just start to shift side to side. It's really easy to activate the muscles at the front of your hip joint. Nothing wrong with that, but just try to soften that a little bit. And so it's really just like a boat kind of rocking and some light waves in the water, just left to right. A lot of the time we forget that we have capacity for such subtle and articulate movement through the pelvis. And then that translates to, more tightness, more constriction, less range of motion through the hip joints, where the head of the leg bone meets the pelvis. And also less spaciousness through the low back. So this is kind of like you coming into the four corners of at least the back of the pelvis. And then take the next 3 to 5 breaths. There's really no hurry. To come into the middle space between the left and the right, pressurizing so it feels like equal pressure between the back left side and back right side of the pelvis, as well as that neutral sensation between the forward and backward rocking of the pelvis. And then imagine the 4 corners of the back of the pelvis, the top, the bottom, the left, the right. And turn those into a circle. So it's kind of like a compass shape or a clock is a common visualization. And start to, beginning at 12 o'clock at the top of the clock, go clockwise and begin to circle, that clock, with pressure through the back of the pelvis. So it's, there'll be a little bit of movement here. And you don't need to go very fast to feel it out. It's like you're trying to hit every degree of the circle between each of those points. And don't worry about it if there are places that feel kind of jagged in the movement or that feel inaccessible. Just notice them. Move through them as intentionally as you can. do 3 to 5, and then up at the 12 o'clock point, switch directions to go counterclockwise. So, and if you're not counting, just do ish, and then do about the same in the other direction. You're not going to create any kind of imbalance by not having a perfect number of circles, direction to direction. Sometimes switching directions makes certain degrees more accessible. And it's also just going to wake up more of that connection between the brain and the body. And this very specific and acute relationship with the pelvis helps us to bring greater stabilization into the trunk by knowing exactly how it's positioned as we move through space. There are more and less functional ways to place the pelvis through movement. And this is something that Pilates in particular can be of assistance with. And then it'll change your posture, it'll change your breathing, it'll change how you walk, how you move your body through space and through your life. And take the next few breaths to settle back into that sensation of neutral, equalized pressure at the back of the pelvis, and neutral tilt of the pelvis as well. A neutral pelvis is the starting point for most movement and most activations. And so you want to stabilize the neutral pelvis by finding abdominal engagement. And the biggest muscle that we use for this is the transversus abdominis. And this feels like a corset being tightened around your center. And so just think of activating that, pulling all the muscle fibers in your trunk into a center point, like someone's tightening a corset behind you. And it's almost like the sensation of pulling your belly button towards your spine to push all of the air out of your belly, or out of your lungs rather. And then you want to maintain that as you breathe in. And stick with that for a few breaths, trying to hold that abdominal engagement in. And you're still taking those full breaths in and out, that same long, slow, deep breathing pattern. But because you've got the core engaged, you're not going to expand through the low belly. So it's like you're pouring your breath into a vase that's narrow at the bottom and open at the top. So there's going to be lots of space for the chest to expand laterally, forward, backwards. But you're still filling into the lowest lobes of the lungs. It's just because the belly's engaged and not relaxed. It's not going to move out. The volume of your abdominal cavity won't change. And sometimes what can help with this is placing your hands on your belly if you need to. And you just don't want to feel your hands move very much as you breathe in. Complete the round of breath that you're on, and then take one more in the same breathing pattern. And at the bottom of that second breath, you can relax abdominal engagement. Keep the pelvis in that fairly neutral position, but allow your body to soften. And then last thing we'll do here is we'll get the pelvic floor involved in the engagement as well. So slowly, without the need to intentionally engage your abdominals right here, just slowly tap back into long, slow, deep breathing pattern. Full breaths in and out. And then with each exhale, start to pull your belly button towards your spine, just like you want to push all the air out of your lungs. Belly button will go down to the spine and then maybe up into the rib cage, of course energetically. And then relax the belly on the inhale so you can get a nice full breath in again. So it's like you're engaging the abdominals just as you were a few moments ago, but only on the exhale and to help empty out the lungs. And then stick with that. And now on the exhale as well, also think of gently lifting the pelvic floor up towards your belly button. And so this can be a confusing sensation. If you're not sure what it feels like, it can be just a new sensation. You can start with the intention of trying to like hold it in as if you had to pee really bad but there was no bathroom. So adding that engagement in to the exhale as you pull belly button to spine up into the heart. Pelvic floor will also lift into the belly button through that like holding it sensation. And then allow everything to soften on the inhale so you can reactivate on the exhale. But if you feel like you have that level of awareness on your pelvic floor, over time you let the contraction sensation, the tightening sensation of it go. So it becomes less about like holding in your pee and becomes more about feeling kind of like an elevator type lift of the pelvic floor. Like it's just sliding up towards being behind the belly button. And it doesn't need to come that high, obviously. And then as you breathe in and it softens, the elevator takes it back down. And so it's still obviously a contraction, muscle fibers are shortening, but it's less constrictive. Because even if a lot of us aren't aware of the specifics of activation in the pelvic floor, most of us do kind of have a chronically overgripped pelvic floor. And so learning how to engage it in a way that just doesn't bring that energy of kind of like crunching and making everything a lot tighter is the aim of this exercise. So complete the breath that you're on and take 3 more in this same pattern of softening everything on the inhale, pelvic floor lift, belly in and up on the exhale. Now at the bottom of the third breath, whenever you get there, come into normal, natural breathing, whatever that means for your body in this moment. There's no specific way to breathe or to engage the muscles right now in your abs or your pelvic floor. And then slowly add in any kind of intuitive movement through the pelvis, the hips, maybe roll out the wrists or lower the knees very gently, left to right. No need to throw them around. You want to keep all this gentleness and kind of internal focus in your system for as long as possible. Because everything we do through the day, everything that is asked of us in our lives just requires us to be so externally focused. So this is an exercise you can come back to anytime you feel like, one, not only you need to focus on yourself and regulate your nervous system, get back to your breath, but anytime you need to reconnect with the real subtle aspects of your root. You know, pelvic floor is the root of your abdominals. And this area is just kind of also the root of your entire energy system. So it's a nice little reset for any time of the day or night. All right, thank you so much. Let me know if you have any questions.